Welcome. Welcome. Welcome to Spencer Uncensored, where unshakable agents congregate for even more productivity, purpose, and profit. That's what we do here, so I'm grateful to all of you here. Feel free to drop comments. Let us know you're here. If you have questions or anything you want to do, just, hey, jump on in. I see Monique's here in the house. Welcome. Welcome to Spencer Uncensored. Tonight's going to be a special one because tonight I'm probably going to share with you some information that maybe you didn't know. And this might get a little personal. This might get a little vulnerable for everybody tonight. But while I wait for a couple more to show up along the way, feel free to hang out. This will be recorded so that you can get what you need. I'm testing this in a different format with these headphones and this format so that we're going to be able to cut it up and do a little bit better with it for the future, right? So anyway, let's get some things rolling. The last couple of weeks, I have been working very hard on rolling out the Unshakable Agent. So a lot of you should be starting to get emails from me. And today's particular email was moving forward is a way of life. If you didn't get the email, I actually posted the entire email on the blog. So if you go to spencercombs.com, go to the blog, it's right there at the top. Moving forward is a way of life. The reason I think this is important, and I share this at the very bottom of the email, life without a business can be hard. And yet, a business without a life is even tougher. I also know that life is constantly going to be adjusting and moving itself forward or moving around. And if we're not moving forward, which direction are we actually headed? Right? So that's what I want to cover tonight, and exactly some of the things that I dealt with. I'm going to share with you some of my history and tell you a little bit more about myself and what uniquely qualifies me to be the guy that's working on the Unshakable Agent for everyone. So this is going to be a vulnerable message for you guys tonight. So I'm going to just hit a few high points along the way. All right. First of all, let me share with this. Life is better these days. For me, this past year, my wife and I had the opportunity to fly to Europe, and we were there for 2 weeks. Went to how many countries? 3 countries. We went to Spain, France, and Italy, and the majority of that time was spent in Italy. So we had a good time there. We celebrated her. She had a big birthday this year, and we also were married for 15. We've been married for 15 years, so we had a very big trip. We got to do that. Some of you guys get to watch and keep up with me on social media, and you see that we're flying to Miami. We're going all over the place and speaking and training and doing what we need to do. Life is better these days. In contrast, and I'm going to share the contrast in a minute. Hey, Dan, good to see you. I'm going to share with you a little bit of the contrast in a moment, but I want you to realize today it wasn't always like this, right? I moved to Jacksonville, Florida. We've now, we've moved. We got a nice little place. We're starting to, I have something like 150 agents that we're currently working with, and that number's about to change because we're about to do some really big things soon. I'm about to hit the road speaking. I've got the goal of 10. I saw Andy on here, so this is for you, buddy, if you're still on here. Got the goal of 10 Unshakable masterclasses that we want to do across the country. We are working on putting one in San Francisco, doing one here in Jacksonville. So I've got 8 more to secure, and obviously I would love to do one there in the Midlands. If anybody's on here knows about the Midlands of South Carolina, because that's kind of the stomping grounds. I know a lot of people there. But I would love to bring that across the country. So we're going to have 8 more of those across the country next year. We are revamping a whole program that we're doing for a national expansion real estate team for United Home Group. They got 300 agents. So we're working with them as well. There's a lot of good things going on right now. But I don't want to paint this beautiful picture for you to think that this always been like this, because it hasn't. I'm going to take it all the way back. Okay. life is better these days, but listen, my entire childhood, number one, I was born in Naples, Italy, and I point that out to people because I don't look Italian at all, but my mother's Italian, right? I was born there too. My father was in the Navy. They actually met because they both worked on the NATO base. My mother translated. So they met, and then they were divorced by the time I was 7, which that's not that unusual these days. You know, Gen X personalities are like, you know, who didn't have divorced parents? If you didn't, that's cool for you, but a lot of us did. And so we had a lot of jacked up families when we were growing up. I was one of them. And then my mother ended up with a woman partner. So I ended up with 2 moms, entrepreneurial, grew up in hair salons and restaurants and that kind of thing. Every year of my childhood, we moved schools. Every year, except for 2. So I didn't start and finish at the same school, but twice. Every other year, we were moving in the middle of it. And so I learned how to adapt, but it was, you know, that level of certainty of going to the same school never was there. We just moved on to the next thing, right? But it was primarily because of financial challenges, because we go to private school, then we go to public school, and private school, back and forth, back and forth. It was a big mess, to be honest with you. There was so many times, I remember getting a wind-up clock because, I told y'all this is going to be vulnerable. I got a wind-up clock to put in my room to set an alarm because we had the power turned off a couple times. And so I would be late for school, and that was a big problem. So I bought a little wind-up clock with the little bells on the top, you know. I don't know if you're familiar with those. But anyway, I bought one of those. Just little things like that. And as I grew up, we ended up suddenly moving we were living in Jacksonville, Florida at the time. We had to move quick during the holiday season. I'm going to leave that story for a different day, but we had to move, like quick. We moved, not only just moved, we moved out of the country. Like my friend here that I know, Cole, I saw him at the Christmas break. He was like, hey, see you next year, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I didn't come back. He did, like I just disappeared out of his life for like years until I found him on LinkedIn one day. That was my life. And so we went to Italy. And then when we came back, we went back to South Carolina. When we went back to South Carolina, I should have went to my senior year, but I didn't go to my senior year because I needed to work, make money. So instead of going to school, I went to work, and then I hurried up and got my GED. So I actually graduated a year early with a GED so that I could actually make money and help the family. That's kind of like, my life was constantly loaded with sacrifice. And then I thought I was going to go to the military, or I wanted to go to the military. That was kind of my lifelong dream. But instead, I felt the call to ministry. And so I instead was advised, you need to go to this school. And I went to that school. That school was one of the most legalistic, independent Baptist schools you could ever imagine in your life. Okay, imagine a school where you can't even have sideburns. Like if you have sideburns, that's ungodly. Like something's wrong with you. That's the kind of environment this was. And it was an indoctrination school. It wasn't really an educational school. So if you're from the deep South, some of you guys know some of the, and that's the kind of environments that I grew up in, or I went to school in. And then fast forward, I got married by 22. I had a kid by 23. And then all of a sudden I had a seizure. I had more than one, actually. So I had, let's see, my first seizure would have been in 2000. And then October the 1st, 2001, and I'm doing this episode like this for a reason, because October the 1st is coming up in a couple of days. October the 1st is it's a celebrate life day for me, because I was driving. If any of you are from the Midlands of South Carolina, I was in Lexington, South Carolina. There's a McDonald's right there at the corner of 378 and 178 right there in the middle of Lexington. That's my last point of memory. I drove 2-point-something miles all the way to I-20 down number 1, and I don't remember any of that. What I do remember is waking up in the back of an ambulance, looking straight up at the ceiling and being completely restrained and had no idea what had happened. I had a seizure while driving at an estimated 50 miles an hour, hit a telephone pole head on. Now, you can name it whatever you want, but in my life, that was a message that I had purpose. I had a reason for still being around. And so it was rough. That's why these 2 scars are on my arm right now. I have 2 plates and 12 screws in this arm. And in South Carolina, by the way, if you didn't know, in South Carolina, if you have a seizure, I don't know if this is true. Most states, I imagine this is true. But where I was living at the time, if you have a seizure and it's recorded, they'll actually medically suspend your driver's license. Now imagine being a real estate agent and having your license suspended. How do you show houses? How do you go do the work? Right? Guys, tonight's theme is about keep moving forward, constantly moving forward, regardless of what goes on in your life. This is Spencer fucking Uncensored on purpose, because there's some people out here today that need to hear this message. Okay? Life can get tough. Life can get rough. And in that moment, I didn't know, what was I going to do? I was a young father. I couldn't drive, and I had a real estate license. This is what I was doing. I was doing real estate. How do you move forward like that? Guys, this is when I actually had people come and meet me at the office. I would literally have them meet me at the office, and then we would sign a buyer agency agreement, and then I would say, hey, by the way, I can't drive because of the seizure and all of this stuff, and so I'm going to have to ride with you. And this was back in the day when you would usually have them ride with you. This is before we had, met people at the house. They literally would ride with you. Well, I couldn't do that, so I had to ride with them. And the funniest story about this, I'm going to deviate a little bit because this is humorous right now. The funniest one of those stories is I had this young lady come and meet me at the office. We were going to go look at some houses afterwards. And I said, I'm going to have to ride with you. And she said, I'm in my work truck. And I could see that she was, Merita, like the bread company. And I said, that's no problem. I'll ride with you. She goes, no, I'm in my work truck, like a bread truck. Yes, your boy showed houses with a little clipboard sitting in a little jump seat in a bread truck. Look, whatever it takes, you keep moving forward, right? So I showed houses, and she ended up buying a house. We helped her do that. And listen, we could come up with excuses all day long, but we got to keep moving forward, right? But it didn't end there. The seizure that's just another piece of my story. I'm sharing with you guys why moving forward and why the Unshakable Agent is so important to me. Because you can have all the mechanics you want. You can even have the mindset. But until you get those 2 together and create movement, you're never going to get where you want to be. Fast forward. I started helping real estate agents with... I started helping real estate agents and coaching agents and working with them and building their business. I ended up becoming a productivity coach at a Keller Williams office in Columbia. I was productivity coach for 5 market centers across 3 regions. Like we had a lot of things going on in my day. But at the same time, I was doing my best to help people, and I didn't pay attention to my own value. And to a degree, I still do that to this day because I got people that owe me money right now. But I still just keep on doing my thing because at some point I'll get taken care of, as it's been evidenced in the last few months, last few years here. Are y'all with me tonight? I need some thumbs up, some love. I need something to let me know you guys are here. We're having a good time. Guys, listen, it's critical that you keep moving forward. Things will get difficult. It's going to get difficult. I have had, let me just drop some things on you. I intended to be a chaplain. I wanted to be a chaplain in the military so bad. I really did. I was all about it. And I don't want to go long on this story, but I'll just tell you enough to help you understand the pain of this. I was really, really, really wanted to be in the military. And had someone way back in the day given me the appropriate advice, they would have helped me do that way back. Okay? They would have, when I first said I knew I wanted to be in ministry and I wanted to be in the military, somebody should have told me at that age, hey, did you know that there's a role like that in the military? I didn't know. I had no clue. How was I supposed to know? And before somebody jumps in my comments someday and says, oh, I thought your dad was in the military. Listen, my dad lives on the other side of the country, and we only talk like once a month, if that. Okay? I didn't have that kind of relationship, especially at that time. Now it's a lot better. But back then, no, not a whole lot. So there's another pain point, by the way. I can point out the fact that I thought my dad had abandoned us. He did not, but I thought that he did. I carried that for the very long time. Whoo! Y'all with me? I've had a lot of espresso. So then, where was I at? Chaplaincy. I found out, or I just wanted to go in the military, actually. So I thought I could just go in enlisted. So I went to the enlisted office and I said, hey, put me in. I just want to go in, at least as a reserve, because I want to do my piece, my duty. I felt it was a responsible thing for me to do. I wanted to be in the military. So I go and they give me the ASVAB, and then I called back the next day. I said, how did I do? They said, oh, you could practically do anything you want in the military. You scored a 98, which means, and 98 doesn't mean that out of 100, 50 is the median score. Like most people score 50, right? I just scored way high on that end, which means I could practically do whatever. And so he says, you can do whatever you want. But the fact is, because you have an undergraduate degree, remember the Bible college I told you about? You should go talk to the officer corps. Okay, cool. I go talk to the officer corps. Officer corps says, yeah, you can go in as a chaplain. You just need a master's degree. No problem. Let's get a master's degree. And I specifically said, now let me ask you something. I've had a seizure. How does that play into this? No problem, Mr. Combs. We can get you a medical waiver. Not a problem. I'm sure you know where this story is going. The only part you didn't know is between that not a problem and a year and a half later, when I'm halfway through the second year of my master's degree, when I turn in all my paperwork so I can go to ODS that summer, which is Officer Indoctrination School, right? That's where you go in and then you get trained to be in the military, be in the Navy, be an officer. With a direct commission as a chaplain. I was super jacked about it. $30,000 in debt. I turned in all my paperwork, and the very next day, which by the way, if you've never done a security clearance questionnaire and all that stuff, holy moly. If the government wants to find me, they'll find me. No problem. I had to call family members and stuff. Do you remember the names of the neighbors we had when we were like 7 years old? Like, it was crazy. But anyway, turned it all in. I get a call from not from the officer recruiter, but the lady doing all the paperwork next to him. You know, you ever heard that say, like, you want to talk to the man in charge, you want to talk to the woman that knows what's going on, right? The lady that knows what's going on calls me and says, I'm sorry, I can't process this. And I said, why not? Well, because you've had a seizure. I said, hold on. I was told we can get a medical waiver. How do I do that? She said, there's no way. There's no medical waiver for this type of situation. What? Get out of here. Is that true? Now, in typical Spencer fashion, by the way, the story went a little longer than I was hoping, but maybe you guys are interested. Typical Spencer fashion, I didn't let it go at that. I hunted down Chaplain Meehan. Okay, she at the time was the chaplain recruit commander for the entire U.S. Navy. Hunted her down on Facebook, messaged her directly, and then sent her a message, and then she, in typical Navy fashion, sent me back the Navy regulation. No, I couldn't get into the military. So it kind of ended on a good note, or a funny note, I guess. It wasn't a good note because my dreams were dashed at that point. This was not but like 15 years ago. But was it? No, it was only about 10 years ago. I went back to the original enlisted office every day for 3 days in a row. On the fourth day, I come walking in. I'm like, listen, there's nothing on any of your records that says I've ever had a seizure, right? For all you know, I had an accident. I broke my arm. No big deal. I got full range of motion. We're good, right? Mr. Combs, we can't bring you in. We can't let you do that. We can't let, right? So finally a chief comes from the back office, comes up to me in the front, and he crosses his arms like this because he recognized me at this point because I kept coming in with such a pain in the ass. He said, Mr. Combs. I was like, yes. He said, listen, I can't have you flopping on the deck of an aircraft carrier like a fish. You understand that? It was in that moment right there, I was like, okay, all right, I get it. Fine. And I finally let it go. But at this point now, I had everything pointed in that direction. My family, everything, that I was going to go do this. And it was over, right? You got to keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. I've had cars repossessed from me. I had to ride a motorcycle in the 28-degree weather without the right kind of gear. I remember doing this because I was working another job. I did everything I could to keep moving forward, and it was not always pretty. Sometimes it was super painful, emotionally painful, physically painful, but you got to keep moving forward. I had to borrow money from people. How embarrassing, right? I remember doing all that kind of stuff. We had challenges with our children, right? I'm talking about addictions and cutting and all kinds of challenges guys, listen. It hasn't been pretty up to here. My business partners in the past, one of them was bipolar. And I don't mean like bipolar as in like we have this pop psychology conversation of, oh, they're probably bipolar. No, I mean legit bipolar. How do you keep dealing with that kind of stuff? How do you keep moving forward? I remember having a family member cross their arms and tell me, listen, if you have any issues, don't bother calling us. I was out on my own. My divorce took so much out of me. I lost everything. I had a BMW. I had a waterfront house. I had a big real estate team. I had all kinds of good stuff. All of it gone. Friends, this is why when somebody comes to me and says, I want to change my life, I want to change my business, I want to do more business, this is why I know that they can do more. Because you can dig down deep and get more from yourself. That's it. These are all, I shared all of this, not all of it, but I had an intake conversation with a broker owner of a real estate office. And after I had shared and they'd asked all these questions and we went through life story stuff, they sat back and they said, so you're a scrapper. And I remembered thinking to myself, do I like that term? What does that mean? And then I thought about it. Yeah, I guess that is true. I am a scrapper. I don't know what may be going on with you. I don't know what may be going on in your life right now. I don't know what challenge you might be having in your life, what's going on with you. But I'm going to tell you, there's a way to keep moving forward. It's a way of life. Everything in life is designed to just cause you to slow you down. You have to impose your will or dance with it, whatever it takes to move forward. This program that we're getting ready to roll out, I'm jacked. I've said this before. I'm jacked. We're only letting certain people in, the ones that actually can afford it, to start. Because I want thoroughbreds in the first round. We're not going to have any donkeys. Okay? We're going to have thoroughbreds. I need people that are coming in here and we're going to see massive results. Because we've done it before so many times. I'm excited about this. Here's what I want to challenge everybody with tonight. Or today, whatever part of it, wherever this is greeting you around the world. What do you want? Where do you want to go? One of the things we do in the primer portion of Unshakable Agent is the magic wand story. What do you want? If you wave a magic wand, what do you want? If you don't have that idea, and people make jokes about that kind of thing too. They say, well, Spencer, where do you see yourself in 5 years? That's so silly, Spencer. Where do I see myself in the next 5 minutes? Probably sitting at a buffet. Shut the fuck up and get with the program. If you want to move forward, you're going to have a vision for that future. Somebody's like, oh, did he? Yeah, I'm on any one of those shirts that says, I love Jesus and I cuss a little. It's true, okay? At the end of the day, I use language to get people's attention. I want you to understand there is a way forward, but you're not going to be able to move forward if you don't know which direction forward is. If I dropped you in the middle of a desert, you wouldn't necessarily know how to find your way out if you didn't have a map, if you didn't have a direction. And don't make me quote Bible. See all these books right across here? These are all commentaries and stuff. Without a vision, the people perish. Without a vision, you personally will perish. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? Moving forward is a way of life. It's in the little things. It's in the big things. If right now you can't see yourself forward, ask yourself, what do I want? Which direction? What's going to move me forward? What is progress for me? I think too often we spend time paying attention to achievements versus progress. And you're going to have a lot better chance of getting where you want to go focusing on the progress. Focus on the progress, not the achievements. The achievements will come if you focus on the progress. What do I want? Where do I want to go from here? Without that conversation, you're going to have a really hard time doing anything else about moving forward. But if you want to be a victim, you want to be whiny, you want to just stay with where you're at. Listen, there are plenty of people just like that have had worse situations than I have, but some that have had better ones and cling to their everlasting life of victimhood. And it's easy to do, by the way. But if you're whining, complaining, what's the other one? Criticizing. If that's common for you, you need to change that right away, because those are all symptoms of a victim. Champions don't think that way. Champions move forward, and the way they do it is first getting their mindset under control, understanding they're the ones that under control. I control it. It's me. And no. You want to get all Bible with you? No, I'm not a Calvinist. Believe that life's just going to happen to you, and you're just no. You have your own personal will. And I believe that if you have talents that God's given to you, and you don't, that's on you. And those are going to be the things that you're going to be judged for. Why do you think I'm doing what I'm doing right now? So tonight, here's where we're going to leave it at. I trust everyone's doing well, but I want to challenge you to ask yourself, what do I want? Where am I headed? What am I going to move forward? What am I moving toward? The mechanics is just as important, but right now this is a mindset conversation. Moving forward is a way of life. It's not something that happens every once in a while. It's a way of life. So until next week or until the next appointed time, you guys keep well and keep moving forward.